Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, Kano is ready, but we don't have we cannot project, so we'll take Plateau first. Plateau State.
Just before we take Plateau, can we take 5 minutes? Just literally 5 minutes. Literally 5 minutes.
Okay, sir.
Health break, 5 minutes. Some people on this side of the table are a little hard pressed. So literally 5 minutes. Thank you.
It is going to be a 5-minute break. As Ladi said, in this particular session, we had Bauchi, Lagos, Ogun, Edo, Benue, and Imo State. So the tally,
if the mathematics is correct, we now have 23 states
and the
FCT. So there's still, what, 13 states to go, including some big hitters. We haven't heard from Rivers yet. We haven't heard from Kano yet. So some more interesting results are still expected at this point. 5 minutes break, the chairman said.
That's
so,
right.
Yomi, you want to have the stage before we introduce Mr. Obasa?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see how the vote has come. I think it's almost clear how the gaps are going. Seems that where the parties have their strengths, some of them have deepened their strength. But again, you still see the implications and the impact of low voter turnout. The heavy eating states of 2015 are now pounding below weight because people are not showing up. And I think it's something that we need to be very serious about. I feel that as a country, one of the questions we need to ask ourselves is if democracy is the government by the people, of the people, for the people, and the people don't vote, will that still be democracy? I mean, because at the end of the day, you'll start to have states where you have few people determining who becomes the government. It's becoming very obvious. I think what's also becoming very obvious from the patterns that we have seen in most of the states that have been announced in this short while is the fact that the smaller parties, I mean, if you take out the others, seems to be having some showing here and there. I mean, we must commend them. I mean, there's not been any time we have seen a party that has zero in a state. I mean, and let's thank God for small messes. I mean, because at the end of the day, I mean, these are parties that did not even go to campaign in those states, and they are still getting 20 and 15 people that have trust in them. So, which will be an encouragement to them, because many people have argued, and you have seen quite a lot of jokes on social media saying, "Oh, they should cancel these parties; they are wasting our time." We fought for these parties. If you remember very well, NCP was not registered, and Chief Galifemi went to court.
All the way to the Supreme Court.
The Constitution said that you should register there. It didn't say you should provide any criteria. So it was something we fought for. I know one of the very bad things about not teaching history is the fact that what a generation fights for, the next generation comes to rubbish it. The generation fought for universal sovereignty. Some people are now saying, no, not everybody should vote. So you see that coming in. I don't have any reason why you say because the party scored 2 votes, it should not. I mean, India is going to vote in the next couple of months. They have excess of 300 political parties. I mean, it's for INEC to respond to this number. It's just like a father that has many children. You can't pretend as if you have 1 if you have 55.
What do you make of the cancellations, though, in some of the units and the reasons given for not taking certain ballot papers and accepting them?
You know, lawyers will always have job as long as there are elections in Nigeria. I mean, because some of the reasons for the cancellations are... And I think also the question of disenchantment also becomes very important. I mean, so... all those guys who canceled their vote, that means their opinion didn't count, and not through any fault of theirs. Some of them were cancelled because of card readers, some of them were cancelled for various reasons. I think those will be the grounds that the lawyers will use to go to court. But I feel, and personally, I think one of my own problems with our electoral system is the capacity of the returning officer to cancel votes. I mean, so we have voted in 10,000, 5,000 polling stations, and they have collated, and then you aggregate, and somebody sits down, and you don't have any right to appeal. And the man says, I cancel this. And that's what I mean. It's a power that I think should have some elements of adjudication, where if this man will be able to have the capacity to cancel it, there should be somebody to either review or to endorse. But for you to leave that power into one person, I think it's significant, because you can actually determine how the election will go. Just cancel in some areas and leave some areas.
Someone actually said yesterday that our laws confer powers without stating the procedures, responsibilities, and consequences.
Yeah, I remember when I was in university, 200 level introduction to management, 14 principles of verifiable management. One of them says is accountability and responsibility must go together. So Nigeria will tell you have power to do this, but we not say if you don't do it well, this is what will happen to you. So you say a man has a right to cancel, but so what are the criteria? You know, one of the things I like about the US system is that when you see a law on anything in the US, is a law. It will be this thick.
That's what was being said. That is, they're usually voluminous.
When you, for example, you see the SOX law. A SOX law is equivalent to some of the laws you have in maybe your CFI and all of that. It's this thick, because they'll put procedures, they'll put process, they will also put what should happen if the official does not do the right thing. So in Nigeria, for example, they say the governor shall sign all certificates of occupancy, but will not say he must sign it within 45 hours. And therefore, the man that doesn't sign it, like a governor went and boasted that he signed 5,000 CO votes in 2 years. And I'm like, he's signing. I can sign this for 5,000 in 25 minutes. If you allow me, I'll automate my signature and get it signed.
That's right.
So again, that's part of one of the things that I think we need to do. The powers to cancel votes, I think, should be such that should be tempered, because it could use the advantage of the contestant against the other.
You remember that this even came up in the argument over the guidelines and what should happen when the smart card reader, or if the smart card reader fails, who should be the person to determine I cancel or you can continue. This is one of the things the political parties complained about before those guidelines came out.
Yeah, I mean, which is, you know, again, one of the things that also happens is that the engagements before election is very little. The conversations around the process. Now, people have come to Abuja to come and complain, oh, you should first do download of this. I mean, you don't come to start to change FIFA rules during the World Cup. They have set the rules. You come to, you play and go home. All right? And you don't appeal against the winner. I mean, that's the way it is. I think one of the things we need to also do as the people is for us to also get involved in all those processes that lead to the election. And also to make a call to our academics, because it's important for us to see the academic sector respond to these issues and let people know what happens in this country and what happens and what was the implication, why are we doing what we're doing, such that we don't start to have things that becomes problematic at the end of the day. Part of which is every of these guys who has come to present results traveled from somewhere. There's some states that don't have airport, they go by road, all to read a speech that you could have snapped on your WhatsApp and sent to this man, and he will read. And as a nation put 36 teams, because it's not one person coming, 36 teams on the road, just to come and read something that they have typed in Excel. I mean, all they need to do is to just say Control send, attach to a file, and send it by email. If you don't have email, you can send it by WhatsApp.
But the law has to provide for that.
Yeah, you see, but the point is that the challenge is that we can't keep having laws that make us inefficient. We can't keep having laws that make us unproductive. All these guys who flew to Abuja, they went by road and they went by air. Somebody is paying for that. Nigeria is paying for that. They're going to sleep in an hotel tonight. They're not going to go today or tomorrow, maybe 2 or 3 nights. Nigeria is paying for that. So we are writing laws that makes us, and then we then come and complain about cost of governance. When somebody could just have done this by email or whatever, I know somebody would now say, well, if you send it by email, what if it gets corrupted? Like a friend said, what if they're corrupted? I said, the last time you applied to go to the US, did you go to anywhere? You sent everything online. It wasn't corrupted, but our own internet can be corrupted. I mean, the question is that people now write JAMB entirely online. I mean, so that's where we should go to, and we should start to move on gradually. I agree, it may be a journey, but we just need to start. We can't keep having these laws that make us inefficient. This country has practically been on the standstill as we announced this election. People have sat down, they couldn't take decisions. We should not create those administrative bureaucracy that makes us inefficient.
Well, again, you know, we've spent a great deal of this week since we did the elections. Before the elections, we were talking logistics, the big L. After the elections, we left logistics largely. And now we've moved on to the pace of this, which also is a logistic issue. But as Ijema was pointing out, governed by law. Even if INEC wanted to make it faster or adjust some things and so on, there will be those who would, as Mr. Obasa. Incidentally, let me also use this opportunity to welcome Mr. Obasa.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much for joining us on this segment. Mr. Obasa, you know, would have pointed this out in a previous discussion where without the law being altered, you can't do anything. Those who benefit from the current system, whatever those benefits may be, oppose altering this. Because I remember hearing the INEC chairman saying, look, yes, a lot of the things you are saying would make a lot of sense and so on, but for as long as the law remains this, we can't go outside the law. So how do you get around those who stand to benefit being the ones who need to change the system that may then in the end not benefit them?
Okay, my dear cousin wrote an article about the kinds of leaders we have. Very interesting dimension. He said there are leaders that see the world as it is, and there are leaders that see the world as it should be. The biggest tragedy in Nigeria is our leaders see the world as it is. I've heard the vice president of this country complain about laws. This is a professor of law. This is somebody executive that can send a bill called an executive bill. The fastest law to be passed in Nigeria is an executive bill because it doesn't go through first, second, third reading as the others would. So we have a situation where we have leaders who complain about the law. They have the authority to initiate a review. So the INEC chairman will have his reasons why he feels he should have. But the question we need to ask ourselves is our country the better for it? The law is what it is. Leadership is not following the law. That's management. You know, management is that if they say everybody get to the junction and turn left, even though you know that they should not get to the junction, they can turn left. But management says we should get there. They say, but what? If we turn here, we'll still get. So no. Management said get to the junction and turn. That's management. Leadership is to ask that question: what pays us? Is it to get to that junction and turn, or not turn at all? Because that's what we are doing. And give it to, I was telling a friend that one of the presidents we don't give enough respect for is the late President Musa Yar'Adua. I mean, this man did not spend 3 years in government. He didn't spend 4 years in government. He came, he saw the election that brought him in, condemned it at the day he was sworn in, and set up the Waste Committee. And based on some of the findings of the Waste Committee, set up an executive bill that became the review of our electoral law that we're still using till now. So question, we have had 2 presidents after this man. Why has nobody ever done any review? I mean, these things are not cast in stone. They are simple things to do. I mean, you see a law that makes, how do you spend billions? The amount we spend on election is more than the budget for capital project for education in Nigeria.
They've done a review of the Electoral Act multiple times, and it's as if it happens after almost every election cycle. There's a review of the Electoral Act. Now, the latest one, it wasn't signed into law, and that raised some dust before the elections. So if that continues to happen, how do we move from here? If we have the Electoral Act only looked at just close, and usually it takes like a whole year, just close to the election, it's signed into law, and then they use to that election. But Mr. Obasa, can you weigh in on this?
I think at the end of the day, it's still about interests. Because I remember, was it the last time I was here, we were talking about the politicians, they should know what to do. But when the politician that is the one that will write the law is biased and is thinking about his own pocket, then you have a problem. Because when you look at the violence, when you look at the pockets of violence, from what I've seen, it is not from the presidential part, but from the senatorial. And it's like a do or die thing because of what they seem to get from it. So a lot of the problems that we're enumerating here will be solved when our politicians first up in issue is what they can give and not what they can get. For as long as they keep on earning 20, 30 million a month, it will be a do or die affair. And they'll not be looking at what is best for the nation or what is best for their pocket. And we've seen that over and over again. How do you reconcile the fact that we have people, Nigerians, who call ourselves Muslims and Christians, and we should go by moral standard, do unto others what you like others do unto you. And you sit down there and you say that 30,000 is too much to pay for somebody. That's 1,000 naira a day. Here you take about 1 million a day. How do you reconcile that? I never get it. So until we get to a point whereby our system is that what can you give, not what you can take.
How will we get to that system? Because you see, it's like the way people present this is like a catch-22 situation. The people who are supposed to move us to that situation are people who benefit currently from the lopsidedness, from the discord, from the inequalities in the system. So why should they change it?
That's a question. That's a big question. Because you look at it, how many senators do we have? Whatever, 220, whatever. Not one person will come down and say, no, this is immoral. This is immoral, and I will not do this. I will not take it. Because I cannot. How can you have a country like Nigeria, whereby the senator gets more than a country like United States, and richer countries than Nigeria? How do you reconcile it? I don't get it. And not one person. And then we have our religious leaders who will not come and say, no, you senators, you are wrong. Don't do this. But they will hear God talking to them on some other things. Why would God talk to you that this is wrong? I don't get it. There's a disconnect somewhere.
But you see, when they interfere, then they say, don't bring religion into politics. We've had that argument. But when they begin to weigh in, you say, no, first
you said something while we were on break.
Yes.
Mr. Fawemi, you said something while we were on break. You said, there's nothing to which we cannot find a very good answer.
Yeah.
This conversation as it's going right now is the way it goes on in many homes, in many business spaces, and so on. At the end of it, what do people walk away with?
You see, everything falls and rises on leadership. Societies don't change, leaders change society. 1951, 1952, the average Yoruba person was illiterate, stark illiterate. There was no difference in terms of educational achievements in 1951, 1952 in this country. Then the leader emerged, 1954, 1955. And the man said, I'm going to spend all my money on education and human development, right? And it changed. That leader changed that situation. Immediately it changed. What happened to the other two leaders? They didn't have a choice. That leader came and sat down and said, I want a television station in Nigeria. At the point in which Nigeria had a television station, the first one in Ibadan, there were European countries that are not having a TV station.
France.
At that point. France, for example. So this man said, this is what's going to happen. You know what happened immediately is, we had the first television station in Ibadan. The premier of Eastern Nigeria had to do something and created their own television station in the East. So the funny thing is that it became a rivalry. So the TV station in Ibadan is always announcing, we are the first television station in Africa. The one in the East, you know what they call themselves? We are second to none. So did you see how that rivalry has? But immediately what happened was Kaduna, when the leader in the Western region started the Ikeja Ogba industrial access, what happened to the man in Okpara and Zik in the East? In a bid to compete against him, while in Lagos we had one industrial zone, they created two. That's why you have Transamadi in Port Harcourt, and then you had Aba. Because the man wanted to show leaders make a difference. Now, somebody says the current leaders gain from the current situation. Sometimes we have accidents of history where a leader just emerges from the corrupt system and decides to do a different thing. That's what I think will likely happen. One will just have a leader that will just take a very simple decision. And we have seen it before. Donald Duke took his decision and said, I'm going to make my state the tourism capital of Nigeria. And he did it. It's something that has been done before. We have a governor, for example, in Lagos State at the point that said, I'm going to ensure that my IGR is more than my federal allocation. And it happens. When leaders take decisions, things happen. People follow and things happen.
Okay, I think we can go back to the INEC chairman now. They had said they would take 5 minutes break, and I think they're back now. Let's listen in. But I was going to say, you've said a lot about what the leader should be, but there are those who say that the process, the leader is as good as the process through which he emerges. Now, looking at our process, what we have seen for 2019, even though the results are not completely out yet, what is your takeaway for 2019? If we're looking into 2023 and looking back on this year, what is the takeaway from this process? I'm asking Mr. Obasa and then, and quickly now, because I know you need to run.
For me, I think we have to look forward. We have to use technology, because we've seen a lot of failures. For instance, now, I don't understand why the card reader will not read. My phone was able, the QR scanner was able to read my card. I showed it to you. So something is wrong somewhere. And at the end of the day, I think it is just that we need to get experts and put square pegs in square holes for us to be able to achieve what we need to achieve.
Mr. Fawemi?
I think we have seen some demonstrations around here of improvements. The local government election in Kaduna State, for example, has some elements of electronic voting. So that's an experiment I think most states will have done. I thought Lagos State would have done it when we did our own local government elections too, but unfortunately we did not. So I mean, that center of excellence is struggling with something that Kaduna has done well. So sometimes we need to be gradualists, right, and take one step at a time, but we must chart a course. We must have leaders who will chart a clear course as we go on. And I think for me, if the election goes based on the data we have as of now, if the election goes, it seems that the APC candidate seems to be on the lead based on the data we have. That's a second-time opportunity for him. This is the opportunity for him to create a legacy. We don't want to remember him for trader money, because trader money will not make anybody a trader or have money. It's just the reality. It's 10,000 we're talking about. So there's the opportunity to create a legacy. He's not coming back for a third term, so he can take the strong and big decisions around that. Is it the trader or the money you're talking about?
It's subjective. When you talk about 10,000, it's like 10 million to some people. When you go, have you ever given some people 1 naira? I mean 10 naira or 100 naira. They're like almost kneeling down to beg you. When you go to the market, you see a woman with a banana thing on her head. Everything there's like 2,000, and you're empowering her with 10,000. I think it means a lot. Yeah, she may not be wealthy, but she's still subsistence. But at least she'll be able to feed our family at the end of the day with that. So I think it's a bit subjective when you go there.
Again, it's a question
for you. I mean, it doesn't mean anything.
No, and I'm not sure it's about me. It's about we following the standard for development. There's a WHO organization assessment that says, how long are you away from a surgery to poverty? That there are some people in the world, if they have a certain surgery, they will be poor just as a result of that. And that's one of the problems. So if you give me 10,000 to do that, and the point I'm making is not that 10,000 is not enough for some people or not. What I'm saying is that you can't move people from severe core poverty. And that's what we're dealing with Nigeria.
You can't move somewhere. You have to start from somewhere.
If you want to cross a river, if you want to cross a river, right, and there's no bridge, you don't start from you jump once. Well, China showed us that is what should be done. We're not talking about things from heaven. China, Bangladesh, Vietnam showed us.
The problem is that people are talking about China.
Yes.
But China is a long 5,000-year-old civilization. Go and read about the history of China.
Empire,
when Mao Zedong came in.
Empire. No culture, receipts.
Okay, all right, gentlemen. We will have to get back to the Collation Center to have a conversation, but I want to thank you, Mr. Emifayami, and Human Resource Consultant. Thank you for sharing your time with us. But let's just go over to Abuja now. Mr. Obasa is still here. We'll be back.